All right, folks, welcome back to Carolina Conservatives. We are preachers with a punch, and man, are we going to be punching this week once again, folks. This is a very important, another very important, well, all of our programs that we've been doing, especially lately, are very important, but this one is really going to, again, bring some shock value. I am Dr. Nathan Street.
Yes, I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn, and yes, we immediately put a warning on this, and this is not suitable for sensitive listeners, young listeners, or people watching. So this is going to get real. Why do we do this? We do this because this is important.
Yes.
We need to know what's available to our children. We're both being accused of banning books.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy this garbage anywhere. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it at bookstores. You can buy it anywhere you want to on the internet. The point is, we're tired of this being placed in the libraries and the media centers of our children. We're trying to produce students, not sex fiends or people with mental illnesses that are developed because they're taking in things that are unsuitable for their ages and their digestive mind.
Exactly. And folks, listen, I want to be clear about this. We do not support banning books. That is what the Nazi government did. That's what the socialists do. That's what Democrats do.
Yeah.
They want to ban the Bible and everything that has anything to do with the Lord. But I'm going to tell you something. We're not for banning books. And so when we are accused of that, you are not arrested in this country for owning a book of any type. You can own a book. You can go to the library in most cases and pick it out. What we are advocating and what we are saying is that these school districts and these individual schools who are supported by taxpayer money, whose librarians and media specialists are paid with taxpayer funds, are purchasing these books with taxpayer money and are having them readily available for any student to check out. And in a lot of instances, Pastor, they are even telling students in some school districts, don't tell your parents about this. Anything that is having to be hid from parents and where parents are not given some semblance of control over is something that needs to be shouted from the rooftops.
Yes, and we're not going away.
No.
We're not stopping this.
No.
We're just getting larger and larger and more intense. And I'll be honest with you. If you're listening out there and you would say, I wish I could do something like this just to find this. If you would reach out to us, we will show you, we will teach you, we will guide you. We will put everything in front of you where you can do your own searches and find titles in these schools. And I'm going to be honest with you, it is overwhelming.
Yes, it is. And there is this online program. It's called Go Follett, GOFOLLETT. Now, this Go Follett is a source that you can use to find these books in any school in North Carolina. Really, you can find books in a lot of different states, but particularly we've been looking at North Carolina. And now I will say that it is difficult to use when you are outside of the school district. It is much easier to use inside the school for students to use, which that is by design, of course. And so if you go and you search many different words that you would be shocked and that your mothers would probably blush at, then you would be shocked at what you would find in your own local school. And I'll say this too. I have been told by folks and have seen it on Facebook recently that well, this may be happening at different schools, but not in my school. Particularly Randolph County is one of those that they say, well, Randolph County is very conservative, which it is, but that you don't find that in Randolph County schools. So maybe somebody else's school, but not mine. Let me tell you something, folks. It's in your school too.
Yeah.
It's in Randolph County schools too. You better wake up. You better get your head out of the sand. You better realize that we are not in Candyland anymore, that this sort of stuff is in your local school, and you need to get in there, dig it out, and ensure that it ends up on the dustbin of history where it belongs.
Yeah, it's just amazing. We're going to give you some numbers later on. Moore County is my home county. That's where I come from. That's where we started. That's our first podcast was about the George book. We'll come back to that eventually.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what started me in being so inquisitive about this. And so I haven't even finished in Moore County. Now I'm starting in Montgomery County, where I actually live now, and they're in Montgomery County. I'm going to start the outer perimeters of where I am, the counties, and I think you'll be shocked, and hopefully you'll be motivated to action.
Yes.
Once I give you some numbers later on in the program.
Folks, I want to just say that during this program, during this podcast, we are going to be reading some excerpts because, once again, this is something that you must know. And it's not that we enjoy reading this stuff. It's not. I would rather this not be available for children's consumption. If you as an adult want to read this, that's your business. I say you shouldn't be reading it either, because the Bible tells us, David in the Psalms says that I will set no evil thing before my eyes. That also means that we're not going to consume evil. And what you consume into your body, it's going to come back out evil as well. You can't take in evil and not expect evil to come out. The old saying, garbage in, garbage out.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what is happening. And that's what is damaging our children so dramatically. And that's the reason why we are taking this approach to wake you up, to shake you if we have to shock you into realizing that this sort of stuff is in your backyard and just how vile that it is. Again, we don't take pleasure in this, but we are going to do it.
Yeah, and we have taken this, and many others have taken this. We can't take full credit for that. Many others have been motivated to take this before their school boards and the leadership in their counties, and they do nothing. Their answer is they want to form a committee. They sound like a Baptist church. They want to form a committee about it. They don't want to make a decision. My former employer, Dr. Lee Robertson, used to say everything rises or falls on leadership. John Maxwell takes credit for that now since his death. But Lee Robertson said that everything rises or falls on leadership. These people do not want to make decisions. That's why we're appealing to you, the parents. You have the power. Constitutionally, you have the power. And general statutes in this state, North Carolina, you have the power, and we are to put in front of our students wholesome literature.
Yeah. We this stuff is not even literature. I mean, if we think about literature, we think about the greats, we think about Frankenstein, we think about Gulliver's Travels, we think about the Bible. I mean, the Bible is great literature, even though it's real and it's truth from cover to cover. It's still great literature, it's great reading. But that sort of stuff, we want to throw away. Shakespeare, we don't even want to teach Shakespeare in our schools anymore. As a matter of fact, most schools don't teach it, other than maybe Macbeth and Hamlet. We don't teach that anymore. And so we'd rather give them this tripe, to give them this garbage, because, again, the agenda is to sexualize children. It is to change children and rewire their brains so that then they are accepting of this sort of thing, especially when the perverts want to come to them and try to go to bed with them.
Yeah, education is not working. I can't remember the percentage, maybe you do, Doctor, when we interviewed the board members, or rather the board candidates for Guilford County Schools, of their performance level in math and proficiency in math, but it was very low. Our schools are failing.
Yes.
So this should be a magnifier on that, because we're providing garbage and filth. We're training up people to be unleashed in society and the work world, and they're completely they're not ready for any of that. Their reading level is not up, their math level is not up, And the problem is we've got garbage here. We need to replace people at the top. We've got good leaders. We've got good teachers in the classroom that just want to teach.
Yeah.
We've got parents that are taking their students out of public schools, putting them in private and in home schools. And I applaud what they're doing, because you need to. If you can't see a change, if you can't make a change, those are your children. You should do that. But there are hundreds and thousands of children in the public school system, in the education system, that do not have a choice. We fight for them, and that's what we're doing. We're reading this garbage, and that's what it is. It's filth. It's garbage, and you need to know it. If you're turning red as you hear this, or makes you want to turn off the television or turn off the podcast, think about this is readily available for your children.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
The people who do not want them reading the Bible or anything good and wholesome will put this garbage in there. I want to see heads roll. I want to see people beat in primaries and in elections. I want to see rhinos go home. I want to see leadership changed.
Yes.
I want to see change.
Yes. Now, the pastor made a very good point just a few seconds ago several good points, but this one I want to really highlight, talking about performance level, academic performance level of schools. Folks, just this week, there was an article that came out, and I can't remember from where, but you can look it up, of the top 10 school districts in North Carolina. And they printed their performance, their reading and their math scores. We all understand that reading is fundamental. You can't really do anything else without reading so much. I mean, reading, you've got to be able to read at some level. The top school district in the state of North Carolina, and they listed it, was around 50% proficient in reading. Folks, that is half of our children who are going through our school system, matriculating through the school system, who cannot read. And we're putting that out as one of the better school districts in the state of North Carolina. Excuse me? How in the world are we putting children in a classroom with a highly educated professional every day for 8 hours a day, and they come out unable to read? How is that possible? It is because instead of teaching our children the fundamentals of reading, we're too busy teaching them about social justice, equity, racial justice, and all this sexualized garbage so that we can change them to make them good little Democrat voters when it comes time for the election, and so that we can take advantage of them sexually when it comes time that we want to.
Complicit and compliant.
Exactly, is what it is.
Exactly. There is no skills of critical thinking or anything being taught, or critical writing or anything of that nature. I couldn't even get into graduate school until I could prove to them that I was able to provide a critical writing paper.
Exactly.
And so now everybody in leadership has dumbed down education to bring everything down to the level of where people can achieve things, not demand that they meet the bar.
Oh, the standards are so low. I mean, it's so bad that even community colleges now are having to install remediation courses for high school graduates because they don't know how to do math, they don't know how to read, they don't understand science, and they know absolutely no history at all, because we don't teach history anymore in the schools, especially in elementary school. History is not even approached in elementary school. So we are, that's the reason why we've got institutes of higher education who are having to do these remediation courses. So we have taken this great rigor, this awesome standard, this quality that we had in this nation that was founded by Thomas Jefferson, of public education. It was a bastion that we once had, and we have dismantled it and destroyed it and brought it down to the basement. And that we are just letting it's just a matter of counting time, marking time now. Let's mark time to get them through the school.
Yeah, we could go on and on about this. We've got to get to the meat of the matter. But
yeah.
I just saw online just yesterday, a man I think in California spent $18,000 buying land, virtual land. Virtual land. Land you will never see. Virtual land. It doesn't exist. We're not going to make it, are we, folks? Now we're even putting on pizza boxes. Take the pizza out of the box before you eat it. That's where we are in the country.
And it's getting worse. I mean, because of what we're doing, we're dumbing people down and we're dumbing our children down.
Exactly. We need to get into what we're going to deal with. We have what? 4 books today we're going to look at and read excerpts from.
Yes.
This is a warning.
Be prepared.
From this point on, it's going to get yucky.
Yeah. And we apologize for the language. We apologize for that, but it is important that you know exactly what we're going to, and I'm going to read it, folks, word for word. This first one is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, M-A-A-S, Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, A Court of Mist and Fury. This book, by the way, we found at Northmore High School in Moore County Schools. And so the excerpt reads, I'm going to start somewhere in the middle of a sentence. Against the bundle of nerves at the apes of my thighs. First of all, I don't even know what apes of thighs are, but that's what it says. And by the way, if you looked at the cover of this book, it looks like a Harlequin romance book, and this is being foisted on our children. And I groaned his name as I shuddered. My head thrown back, I gulped down night-cool air, and then I was being lowered to the bed, gently, delicately, lovingly. He stretched out above me, his head lowering to my breast, and all at once was one press of his teeth against my nipple before I was clawing in his back, before I hooked my legs around him and he settled between them. I needed this. He paused, arms trembling as he held himself over me. Please, I gasped out. He just brushed his lips against my jaw, my neck, my mouth. Tamlin, I begged. He palmed my breast, his thumb flicking over my nipple. I cried out, and he buried himself in me with a mighty stroke. For a moment, I was nothing, no one. Now, folks, that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas at Northmore High School. What do you think of that, Pastor?
Now, just a little commentary. If I wasn't a pastor at all, what I would take away from that, especially at the ending you said, this girl feels absolutely like a piece of property. She's just a tire. She's just something being used. She's a doorknob. She just had a turn. This is completely opposite of what everyone wants to be taught to your children. This garbage is in Northmore High School. What we really need is a website or a system, a repository that would be able to tell us where all of these books are without taking all the necessary time to look up.
Yes.
This one's at Northmore High School. Parents, get involved.
Right.
Get involved. You should be down the Board of Education's neck.
Yes.
And get this garbage out of here. Their response would be, but they could find much more lewd material online on their phones. Well, if they do have it on their phones, then you as parents need to step up and take it away.
Yes.
We're trying to raise children who can be adults. We're not raising garbage.
That's right.
Tell them we're not raising dogs.
That's exactly right.
We're raising citizens of our country.
That is exactly right.
And you need to raise them in the admonition of the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, by the way, Pastor was alluding to this, that these excerpts are very difficult to find, by the way. And so I would like to specifically call out Superintendent Kathy Truitt here. Superintendent, you need to create some sort of repository, some sort of board or something, oversight board of these books, that someone is going to look at this stuff that is being purchased by the schools, and that you give us some sort of repository so that parents can then go and see that, or that there is a recourse for parents to go to when the school boards are saying, no, we don't want to have anything to do with this. We need something like that, because this stuff is difficult to find. It's hard to get a hold of because these sites do not want parents to know what their children are accessing.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go to the next book here. And by the way, it has a nice name. It is called Jesus Land. Now, if you just read the book and you saw the cover, 2 little girls on the cover, a black girl and a white girl, and looks like it's standing in a schoolyard. And it looks like, oh, this is nice. This might be a nice book. Don't judge a book by its cover. But this book is by Julia Scheeres, S-C-H-E-E-R-E-S. And I begin. I open my eyes and in a boozy blur see his penis jutting from his shorts. He grabs it by the root. Lick it, he says in his thick voice, pressing my head toward it. I've heard girls giggle about blowjobs at school. It's something a boyfriend requires of you. I stare at Scott's penis. There's a pearl balanced on the tan tip. It smells like liverwurst. Like a lollipop. He's begging now, breathing hard. He wags his penis with his hand to get my attention. I close my eyes and stick out my tongue, and it touches the side of it. Now, folks, there's a lot of allegory and a lot of visual stuff there, but you can tell what some of this stuff was if you know anything about anatomy. But this is essentially a boy grabbing a girl by the head, pulling her to him, and these are young kids, but grabbing a girl by her head, pulling her down to his penis, and telling her to perform oral sex on him. And folks, this is not only sexual harassment, this is rape of what is happening. This is an oral rape that's happening. And it's like the girl is being taken advantage of, and it is. And folks, this is being, and I want to point out one more sentence here that says, now, your children are reading this particularly, that says, I've heard girls giggle about blowjobs. Oh, we're just going to go giggle about it because it's nothing, it's something, it's fun, it's nothing at all. It's something a boyfriend requires of you. That's just accepted. Yep. The boyfriend requires you to perform oral sex. That's nothing. That's just something that boyfriends do. And it's a requirement if you have a boyfriend. That's the message that is being portrayed.
That's grooming. That's putting in that girl's mind that's reading the literature, if you can call it that, the filth. It's putting in her mind, this is required if you have a boyfriend. Just expect it. It's a given. You're going to have to do it. And that's not the case at all.
Yeah. And by the way, that book is in Pinecrest High School in Moore County. We found it there. And we're just looking in Moore County. Now, if you look at your county, you'll probably find it in some of your schools as well, folks. And so, now, this next book, it is called Speak, S-P-E-A-K, by Laura H. Anderson. We found this in Union Pines High School in Moore County. Now, this book tells the struggles of a 13-year-old girl after she is raped at a party. Why are we even talking about this?
This book is also found in Southern Middle School, which is, the status says checked out at the moment.
There is a child that has this book in his or her hands right now. This book contains sexual activities, including sexual assault, battery, and profanities. And I will begin, there are a few excerpts here. I will begin on page 129. I was on the ground and he was on top of me. My lips mumble something about leaving, about a friend who needs me, about my parents worrying. I can hear myself. I'm mumbling like a deranged drunk. His lips lock on mine and I can't say anything. I twist my head away. He is so heavy. There is a boulder on me. I open my mouth to breathe, to scream, and his hand covers it. I want my head, my voice is as clear. In my head, my voice is as clear as a bell. No, I don't want to, but I can't spit it out. I'm trying to remember how we got on the ground and where the moon went, and wham, shirt up, shorts down, and the ground smells wet and dark, and no, I'm not really here. And then on page 181, his teeth are on my neck. The only sound I can make is a whimper. He fumbles to hold both my wrists in one hand. He wants a free hand. I remember. Metal hands, hot knife hands. No. A sound explodes from me. No. I follow the sound, pushing off the wall, pushing Andy Evans off balance, stumbling into the broken sink. He curses and turns, his fist coming, an explosion in my head and blood in my mouth. He hit me. I scream. Why aren't the walls falling? I'm screaming loud enough to make the whole school crumble. I grab for anything, my potpourri bowl. I throw it at him. It bounces to the floor. My books. He swears again. The door is locked. Folks, that's very graphic rape scene and abuse. It is a scene of abuse of a boy on a girl here.
And a middle school student has checked it out.
And we wonder why we have violence in our schools.
Exactly. You're feeding it. School administrators, you're feeding it. And when parents bring this to your attention, you look at them like, I don't see a problem. If you don't see a problem, resign.
Mm-hmm.
You're so inept. You're so immoral. You're so just completely out of touch with reality. And you're providing detriment to children. And you call yourself leaders?
Mm.
You're nothing more than perpetrators to the fact.
Yeah.
You're groomers because you're complicit.
I would even say, not only should you resign, you should be nowhere near children. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't even want you near my pets, let alone, I wouldn't want you to be in charge of my pets. If you're going to allow this kind of stuff, a boy physically assaulting and sexually assaulting a girl, and a middle school student has this checked out. And when a student who has read this garbage comes to the school and acts this out, and maybe even worse, comes to the school with a gun, and you wonder why this sort of stuff happens. Folks, wonder no more. This is why we have the mess that we have going on in our schools. We have thrown God out of our schools. We've thrown Jesus out of our schools, and we've welcomed this satanic garbage into our schools, and it only gets worse.
If you know someone that has their children at Southern Middle in Aberdeen, I believe that's where it's at, in Aberdeen, please share this video with them. Some student has this book in their possession right now, and it's checked out. I don't know whether it's checked out digitally or a real book that they have in their book bag or in possession, but they need to know what their child is reading.
And now we're going to get, this one is probably one of the more graphic ones. It is a doozy, and this book is called 13, and it is by J. Asher, A-S-H-E-R.
13 Reasons Why.
13 Reasons Why. Yes, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It is a disturbing book that sensationalizes suicide. Recordings of a girl named Hannah who committed suicide, helping Clay Jensen uncover the story behind her decision. Depression, deception, and rape are topics in this book.
Netflix capitalized on this, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was leading a youth group several years ago, when this came out initially, I did a series on 13 Reasons Why Not in confronting suicide. And these young people were very inquisitive. And they were watching this series. And of course they stopped, thank God, once we dealt with it. But this garbage is in our schools.
Page 25. Hannah took off her shirt and let Justin put his hands up her bra. That's it. That's what I heard happened in the park that night. But wait, why would she do that in the middle of a park? The dream starts with me at the top of the rocket, holding onto the steering wheel. It's still a playground rocket, not a real one, but every time I turn the wheel to the left, the trees in the park lift up their roots and sidestep it to the left. When I turn the wheel to the right, they sidestep it to the right. Then I hear your voice calling up from the ground, Hannah, Hannah, stop playing with the trees and come see me. So I leave the steering wheel and climb through the hole in the top platform. But when I reach the next platform, my feet have grown so huge they won't fit through the next hole. Big feet? Seriously. I'm not into dream analysis, but maybe she was wondering if Justin had a big one. Page 254. What about hanging? Well, what would I use? Where would I do it? And even if I knew what and where, I could never get beyond the visual of someone finding me swinging inches from the floor. I couldn't do that to Mom and Dad. So how did they find you? I've heard so many rumors. It became a sick sort of game, imagining ways to kill myself. And there are some pretty weird and creative ways. You took pills. That we all know. Some say you passed out and drowned in a bathtub full of water. It came down to two lines of thinking. If I wanted people to think it was an accident, I'd drive my car off the road, someplace where there's no chance of survival. And there are many places to do that on the outskirts of town. I've probably driven by each of them a dozen times in the past couple of weeks. Others say you drew the bathwater but fell asleep on your bed while it was filling. Your mom and dad came home, found the bathroom flooded, and called your name. But there was no answer. Then there are these tapes. Can I trust the 12 of you to keep a secret? To not let my parents find out what really happened? That sounds familiar. Will you let them believe it was an accident if that's the story going around? She pauses. I don't know. I'm not sure. She thinks we might tell. She thinks we'll walk up. Now, I'm going to jump down to page 264 through 265. Weren't you on that list, you asked? Best ass in the freshman class. Bryce, you had to see my jaw clench. You had to see my tears. Does that kind of shit turn you on? Bryce, yes, it does. It's true, you said. And then just like that, I let go. My shoulders went limp. My legs fell apart. I knew exactly what I was doing. Not once had I given in to the reputation you'd all set for me. Not once. Even though sometimes it was hard, even though sometimes I found myself attracted to someone who only wanted to get with me because of what they'd heard. But I always said no to those people, always, until Bryce. So congratulations, Bryce, you're the one. I let my reputation catch up with me. I let my reputation become me with you. How does it feel? Wait, don't answer that. Let me say this first. I was not attracted to you, Bryce, ever. In fact, you disgusted me. And then I'm going to kick your ass, I swear it. You were touching me, but I was using you. I needed you so I could let go of me completely. For everyone listening, let me be clear. I did not say no or push his hands away. All I did was turn my head, clench my teeth, and fight back tears. And he saw that, and he even told me to relax. Just relax, he said. Everything will be okay. As if letting him finger me was going to cure all my problems. But in the end, I never told you to get away, and you didn't. You stopped rubbing circles on my stomach. Instead, you rubbed back and forth gently along my waist. Your pinky made its way under the top of my panties and rolled back and forth from hip to hip. Then another finger slipped below, pushing your pinky further down, brushing it through my hair. And that's all you needed, Bryce. You started kissing my shoulder, my neck, sliding your fingers in and out. And then you kept going. You didn't stop there. I'm sorry. Is this getting too graphic for some of you? Too bad. When you were done, Bryce, I got out of the hot tub and walked 2 houses away. The night was over. I was done.
Well, I'm glad that's over.
It's gross. It's just downright gross. It's sick. It's perverted. Suicide, domestic violence, sexual assault.
There's 2 copies at Union Pines High School. And to be honest with you, I think there's more throughout the county. I'm sure there's more, or way more throughout the state. This is a popular book, unfortunately. And it sensationalizes suicide. It's horrendous. In fact, I believe we could do the research based upon this book and their readership and see an increase in suicide.
Probably.
And I believe we're going to do that in the days ahead. But this is just horrendous.
It is shocking that we are putting this in schools that glorifies this sort of activity, that is putting in the minds of boys, for one, that they can go and do this to girls, and that, girls are going to be okay with it. And 2, that girls, if you feel bad about it, or, if you feel like you want to go and commit suicide, you can do that, because what's going to happen is this girl, you're going to end up just like this girl, and you're going to be walking people through what actually happened, because that was a really great thing to do. Yeah. Even if as they said in here, in that book, in that last line, is this too graphic for you? The schools are asking the same thing of you parents right now. They are asking, is this too graphic for you? And then their response is just like Jay Asher says, too bad. I'm going to do it anyhow.
Yeah, that's their response. That's their attitude. Even the administration that we have in Washington right now calls you, parents, domestic terrorists if you seek to get involved and let your voice be known at a school board meeting. Let me tell you where your power lies, in the ballot box. And you so often give that power up. And nobody running for a school board ever is questioned on what they believe or their background or anything. They just announce they're running. They probably spend $5,000 or less on signage and getting it out there on Facebook and everything, and they're shoe-in. But they're not held accountable. And they're not held accountable by you. They work for you.
It's a shock.
Get the garbage out. I hope that we mobilize you and motivate you.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's becoming, I mean, it's almost depressing. It is depressing to read this stuff and know, particularly with the book Speak, we've got evidence that it is checked out. It's in the hands of a middle school student. God knows, it might even be a sixth grade student who is approximately 12 years old. Yeah. 12 years old that is reading this.
And I bet wholesome material is kind of back toward the back or something like that. You probably couldn't even find a Bible in the library. But let me give you some numbers. These are interesting, and I think you're going to be alarmed. Mm-hmm. For those of you who have children or you have gone through Northmore High School in Robbins, North Carolina, you go online and you do a search at gofollet.com, and you do a search under the word homosexuality alone. 21 books come up at Northmore High School. You go on there and you key in the word sex, 3 letters, 48 books come up that discuss it in detail. Key in the word lesbian, you have 2 books, and that was such a low number, I'll say what it is. Say the Word is the title, and Kissing Kate. So there you have it at Northmore. Now, Union Pines, and these, I'm telling you, it's very time consuming to do this, and this is not our sole jobs. So we do this when we can. Union Pines High School, Cameron, North Carolina. Type in the word LGBT, or it's not a word, but type in the letters. You have 3 books that come up that parades LGBT as wonderful and liberating. Key in the word sex. You have 30 titles that deal with some aspect of sex. Key in the word lesbian. 15 books. Homosexuality. 14 titles. Transgender. The word transgender. 2. Cemetery Boys, which is a transgender who is on a witch hunt, a witchcraft involved here, and it's summoning. The summary of it said he is summoning demonic spirits. You wonder why we have a gateway in our country right now of demonic activity.
Yeah. I mean,
we're feeding our students garbage.
I mean, that book is probably a how-to book, to be honest with you, because to be transgender, you've already summoned and accepted some demonic spirits.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, folks, this is. I hope that you are being shocked enough by this to do something about this. And by the way, just so there are, I know that there are folks out there who think, well, you're just picking on the gays, you're just picking on homosexuals. We make no bones about that homosexuality is a sin. And that's certainly, we say that up front and unequivocally, that homosexuality is a sin. But we are not just picking on homosexual books. You heard right here, the majority of the books we read were heterosexual activities.
Yeah. Rape, abuse.
So don't give me that garbage.
Yeah.
We want sexual stuff taken out of the schools. I don't care if it's heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, transgender, whatever. Yeah. Why are we even discussing this with children when they can't read, they can't write, they can't do math? Why are we spending so much time on this instead of that? Folks, don't hand me that bull. That is exactly what they're trying to get at. They're trying to deflect from what we're trying to do here.
And everyone wants to pass the buck. Whenever I speak to school board members, they say, well, yes, that's important. Whenever I show the law, which the general statutes say, it shall be unlawful for any person, firm, or corporation to intentionally disseminate obscenity. It goes on to tell us about anyone who sells, delivers, or provides. Listen, folks, you're breaking the law, and nobody gives a flying flip about it. Mm-hmm. And when I bring it to a DA or when I bring it to someone in law enforcement, they want to pass the buck. Nobody wants to do anything. They'll say, well, the sheriff should be able to do that, or this should happen, or that should happen. How about enforce the freaking law?
Yes, absolutely.
Enforce it. We have it on the books.
Yes.
Abide by the law. If we did that, we would not have the garbage we have. And let me tell you something else. How can we, someone accused me the other day of just, and we're going a little long today, but the gravity of the situation warrants it. Someone accused me the other day, well, all you do is point out error. You never give us anything, and it was having to do with the subject matter. You never tell us what we can do. Okay, let me tell you what you can do. Number one, you need to get involved.
Yes.
Number two, you need to get involved in your children's lives.
Oh, yes.
You need to know what they're looking at all the time. It is up to you to develop a spiritual, emotional, physical diet for them to intake into their body.
Amen.
You are charged with the development of that child, and you will stand before God for it. That's where it begins. Stop fishing so much, Father. Stop hunting so much, Father. Stop working so much, Father. You have to be the man of the house.
Amen.
And be there.
And if you're handing one of these to your children and letting them just have free reign, or an iPad, or you're letting them have a computer in their room that they have access to, and you don't have any kind of controls on that, that is contributing to the problem. It is making the problem worse. And if you're sitting them down in front of a television and letting them have free reign and watch all this garbage that's coming in, or have free reign to these books, bringing this stuff in, and you're not even looking through it, you're not reading this yourselves to make sure, yeah, it's a lot of work. Children are a lot of work, but it's your first responsibility. You have to do it.
Yeah, they're a lot of work. That's why you need to think about it. And that's why abortion should be and always off the table. Think about what you're doing in the bedroom before you have to do anything in the boardroom.
That's exactly right.
Take some responsibility. That's what we're teaching people these days, not to take any responsibility. Well, I can just abort a baby, or I can just tear up the paper, or I can just hide the body. I mean, good grief. Take some responsibility. Now, what else can we do? Get involved in the school board. Get involved in your child's education. Be an aggressive parent and let them know that you're going to be at the board meetings and you're going to hear what they're discussing and you're going to be making recommendations. You can sign up to speak at every one if you want. You have 3 minutes. Some give you 4. You need to be there. You need to be present. You need to be emailing them. You need to let them know they're being held accountable. And you need to go to the ballot box and pray and vote.
Amen. And I'm going to add this one too. You better get your kids and your family in church. It is the father's responsibility, and I know some mothers out there are gonna think that, oh, he's being sexist, he's being old-fashioned, he's being traditional. I'm being biblical.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna tell you right up front, I'm being biblical. God called the man to be the priest of the home. Yeah. That does not negate the importance of the mother. So, and I grew up in a home where my mom was the spiritual leader because my dad was unsaved throughout my young life. So if the dad won't do it, Mom, you have to do it. But it is the dad's responsibility to ensure that his family is in church when the doors are open. Yep. You ignore the ball games, you ignore the dance performances, you ignore the concerts, you ignore whatever's going on. And church, the things of God should be first in your life, so that your children know that they put God first before everything else. So you need to be reading and praying with them at home as well. You ensure that you are covering your children and your family in prayer. That Mom, you do that as well. Not just let Dad just do the praying, but you pray over your children as well. You teach your children what thus saith the word of God, so that they can hide that word in their hearts so they might not sin against Him. You do all these things to ensure that your children are inculcated with what the Word of God says, so that when we do that, the Bible tells us that His Word will not return void, that it will go out and accomplish what it is set forth to accomplish. And training up that child in the way he or she should go, he or she will not depart from it when they get older. You have to do that. It's your responsibility.
Yes, there is too much at stake. Too much at stake. Too much at stake in this country. Too much at stake in our homes. We must do that.
Amen.
And we must do it and do it effectively.
And so
Well, we've got to wind this up.
we got to.
We're wound up, can you tell?
Yeah.
And you should be wound up.
I hope so. I hope we wound you up. And we just want to say we really appreciate you tuning in with us on Carolina Conservatives. We are preachers with a punch. We are looking for you to help us. We want you to sponsor us. We want you to help us get this word out. If nothing else, hit the share button. Get this out. Talk about what's happening here at Carolina Conservatives Preachers with a Punch. We want you to join with us. Take us by the hand. Let's march together and let's ensure that the gospel reaches out far and wide. I'm Dr. Nathan Street.
I'm Pastor Alan Mashburn. God bless you.